So what is high-functioning depression?
That an individual may be suffering mild, moderate, or even severe depression, but while they have it, somehow, some way, they have the wherewithal to kind of hide a lot of the symptoms that other people might not be able to hide.
Psychiatrist Dr. Harold Levine, Baycare's chief medical officer in behavioral health, says oftentimes those who struggle with this kind of depression are successful and extremely disciplined.
Maybe more driven than the average person, and we're able to put a lot of the distractions of their own health even behind them.
Levine also says this condition can affect anyone.
High-functioning depression is a term used to describe individuals who experience symptoms of depression but maintain a high level of functioning in their daily lives and responsibilities. The best example I can use is that of Chesley Chris. She was a very established, successful, and beautiful woman, but deep down, she was fighting some serious demons, and no one knew until she did what she did. This next story is about another woman who was extremely successful, very established, but was secretly battling demons. Welcome to my channel, everyone. Courtney Elise here, aka Court Crimes TV. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment. Also, hit that notification bell. That way you'll know every time I upload. Let's get into the video. On the night of August 20th, 2019, prominent Atlanta surgeon Dr. Christopher Edwards would have dinner with his 20-year-old daughter, Erin Edwards. After a wonderful night with his daughter, they would embrace each other and go their separate ways. On Wednesday, August 21st of 2019, Dr. Edwards would be notified by his son Christopher Edwards' supervisor that he had not shown up for work, which was very out of character for him. He decided to call his ex-wife and mother of his 2 children, Marsha Edwards, to which his calls would go unanswered. Worried, he would call the police to do a welfare check. At around 5:56 p.m., Cobb County Police would arrive to 3206 Nobility Way. Once inside the residence, police would find 3 individuals deceased from gunshot wounds. 20-year-old Erin Edwards and 24-year-old Christopher Edwards were both found with multiple gunshot wounds, while their 58-year-old mother, Marsha Edwards, was found with 1 single gunshot wound to the chest. It was quickly determined that this was unfortunately a murder.
Why Marsha Edwards allegedly killed her 2 children, Chris and Erin, before killing herself. On the surface, things seemed to be going great. In the weeks before their deaths, the family had been traveling according to their social media accounts. Authorities found their bodies while doing a welfare check at their home on Wednesday. Both Chris and Erin were aspiring journalists with bright futures ahead. Their deaths hitting those who knew them pretty hard.
The autopsy report would show that Marsha had her son Christopher at least 5 times as he laid in bed, and then shot her daughter Erin 3 times before turning the gun on herself. The toxicology report would come back as well, showing that Marsha had less than the legal drinking limit. The medical examiner said it could have been a byproduct of body decomposition.
The medical examiner's reports reveal several new details about this case. It shows Marsha Edwards shot her 24-year-old son Christopher at least 5 times in the Cobb County townhouse back in August. Police found the 24-year-old's body in bed. Police then found Christopher's 20-year-old sister, Erin, in another room on another floor of that townhouse. Her mother had shot her 3 times and then shot herself once in the chest right there next to her daughter. All of this information new tonight. We're learning about it in the medical examiner's report. Now, a question many of you have had about this case also has been about Marsha Edwards and whether she was on any drugs and any of those drugs could have possibly caused all of this. What we do know from this report is that the toxicology report only shows 2 things in her system: ethyl alcohol and ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. The medical examiner's office couldn't rule out that she might have had a drink, but says that most likely that alcohol came from the natural changes in the body when someone dies. Now, as for the ephedrine and pseudoephedrine, he says it was likely an over-the-counter drug in this situation.
This shocked the Atlanta community because no one saw this coming, and they especially didn't see this coming from Marsha. Marsha was the epitome of success. She received her medical degree from Louisiana State University School of Medicine in Shreveport and own MME Enterprises LLC, a supplier of surgical and medical equipment. She also loved her children more than anything. In fact, just a few days before the tragedy, she would post on her Instagram, "I've had the best summer, first with Chris in Miami and Erin in Italy. I could not ask for better children." She was so proud of her children and their accomplishments. She posted about them constantly.
Jennifer Bellamy has been looking into the relationship between Marsha Edwards and her son and daughter. Jennifer, they had traveled together even recently.
They certainly had. Cheryl's surface look at Marsha Edwards' life from Facebook shows a mother who loved her children and was proud of them. Marsha Edwards' Facebook page is filled with images of her children, Chris and Erin. She shared several pictures celebrating her son Chris's birthday in June, calling him her best guy, and her daughter Erin her best girl. And within the last few days, she posted multiple times from a trip to Italy with her daughter, sharing dozens of photos and videos over several days, visiting famous sites, smiling, toasting, and posing for the camera. And in July, Marsha posted pictures from an Independence Day trip to Destin with her son Chris. Marsha also posted about Erin's internships with the city of Atlanta and CNN. She shared articles Erin wrote while recently interning for NBC and traveled to New York to see her over the summer.
Christopher worked as a digital content manager for the city of Atlanta and worked in the mayor's office of entertainment.
I'm born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia, so to be a part of history and to represent my proud state as a young millennial, as a young African-American male, I feel like it's my obligation to be here. And just to be sitting in this section is a huge honor, so I do not take this for granted.
Elon Football Edition. Oh, yeah.
To your point, like, I'm not worried about the Chiefs offense. I think they're just a little bit in a funk, but the Kansas City Chiefs defense has been terrible.
All right, Dr. Mark Crine. So let's talk about Title IX, a law that's been really great in helping gender equality, especially in athletics when we're talking about women's sport.
Thunder in progress. Thunder in progress. And the reason why I say that is,
while Erin was a student at Boston University and had just completed an internship with NBC New York.
Take part in a Broadway musical and do every aspect of it. So whether you're performing with Christine in the boat in the final scene, or you are making the Mr. Mistopheles coat light up in Cat, you get to literally take part in every aspect of Broadway, which is something that unless you're working in the Broadway industry, you'll just never get to do anywhere else. We know that now everyone is looking for experiences, much more so than they are just looking for something to go and look at. And so that's the direction that we're trying to go as a brand, adding more experience-based attractions where, you know, guests can take part, they can be the star, and they can really play their part on Broadway. So I think this is the first step for us.
On the outside, it looked like everything was perfect with the Edwards family. The children were successful. Marsha was successful. This all came as a surprise. There's no definite reason as to why Marsha would do this and why she would commit filicide. Filicide is the killing of a son or daughter by a parent. In most cases, young children are the victims. A study published in Forensic Science International in 2014 analyzed filicide cases between 1976 and 2007 and found about 72% of victims were under the age of 7. Adult children between the ages of 18 and 40 made up about 13% of the victims. Philip Resnick, a professor of psychiatry at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, said, "In many cases, mothers commit altruistic filicide, driven by the desire to not leave their child motherless and believing it's best they die together." Another common motive is spousal revenge, where a parent kills the child to get back at the ex-spouse for infidelity or a child custody dispute. I'll post the link to that article in the description if you want to learn more about filicide.
How could the person who gave a child life take it away?
And you gave birth, you carry that kid for 9 months. What mother would kill their kid?
There's a name for it: filicide or infanticide. It's the act of killing your own child or infant.
It's distorted, it's sick, it's psychotic, but that's, in their mind, that's what they thought they were doing the right thing.
Dr. Stephen Ross, who's a forensic psychologist, has worked on hundreds of competency and insanity cases. He says there could be a number of reasons why a parent would do it. It's usually the result of a psychotic episode. It could be that the parent feels the child is a burden, or it could be a revenge killing. He says sometimes a parent may do it to protect the child.
I can bring my kids happiness. I can prevent them from being abused. I can prevent them from further harm. So let's send them to heaven.
They decide that they will end up in heaven together with their children, but it's very much the sense that their lives would be much better if the children had their lives ended.
It's a 50-50 split between mothers and fathers, but the motivation differs.
Often parents feel that their children will be in greater distress with them not being there, that no one can care for them like they can care for them. And so they take their children's lives along with their own. That's probably more akin to mothers and females.
Back to the story. The death of the Edwards family was a complete shock. Marsha showed no signs of her mental health declining. Everyone said she was the most generous and kindest woman. Like I said earlier, even though she and Christopher had been divorced for some years now, they seemed to be co-parenting with one another just fine. Marsha seemed happy. She was very active in the Atlanta community, being a part of organizations such as Camilla Rose chapter of the Lynx, Atlanta chapter of Jack and Jill of America, and City of Atlanta Workers' Compensation Program. When their funeral was being held, so many people attended their funeral. The City of Atlanta loved this family. They were a very, very prominent family within Atlanta. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, along with her husband, shared their condolences in a statement. Derek and I joined the greater Atlanta community in mourning the loss of 3 members of the beloved Edwards family. Chris and Erin were beautiful, vibrant, and brilliant young adults whom we had pleasure of knowing their entire lives. They filled the lives of all who met them with joy, compassion, and kindness. May the peace of God that surpasses all understanding be with the Edwards family and all who had the honor to know them.
Erin and Chris had exceedingly promising futures, just really bright, nice, kind people.
Marsha, the mother who fired the shots, had been married to Christopher Edwards, a surgeon who leads the Atlanta Housing Authority Board. The family is also longtime friends with Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms. Erin Edwards was an intern in the mayor's office last summer. Chris Edwards was a current employee in the mayor's communications office. In a statement, Bottoms said in part, "Derek and I joined the greater Atlanta community in mourning the loss of 3 members of the beloved Edwards family. Chris and Erin were beautiful, vibrant, and brilliant young adults whom we had the pleasure of knowing their entire lives. They filled the lives of all who met them with joy, compassion, and kindness."
Well-educated, fantastic, wonderful, just bright people. Which makes it, a lot harder.
Many family and friends still in disbelief as they gathered today to remember a prominent Atlanta area family after their tragic deaths last week. A joint memorial service was held for Dr. Marsha Edwards and her adult children, Christopher and Erin Edwards. Cobb County Police say that Marsha Edwards shot Erin and Christopher inside their Vinings townhome last week, then killed herself. 11 Alive's Jennifer Bellamy has a look inside today's memorial service.
Well, they called it a celebration of life, not a funeral, and it was obvious today how many lives the Edwards family impacted as dozens gathered at Cascade United Methodist Church in Southwest Atlanta for their memorial service. And there were no caskets, just 3 large framed photos of Marsha, Christopher, and Erin centered at the altar. Erin and Christopher's father, Dr. Christopher Edwards, stood and greeted almost everyone who walked in with the procession. Several of the organizations the family was part of were there too. Marsha Edwards was a member of the Camilla Rose chapter of the Lynx. They were all seated together in white. And the Woodward Academy chorus from Christopher and Erin's former school sang at the service. Family members spoke and remembered their lives with emotional and even at times funny anecdotes. Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, a close friend of the family, was the last to speak. She remembered the tenacity and character of Christopher and spoke about the time he interned at the city council office. She said Erin's laughter brightened every room and that she could have taken over the mayor's communications office. Mayor Bottoms announced a portion of the mayor's scholarship fund will now be named after Christopher and Erin. And in lieu of flowers, people have been asked to donate to the multiple memorial and scholarship funds set up in their honor.
To this day, people still don't believe Marsha is the one behind this. A lot of people believe someone murdered her and her family. They cannot wrap their heads around Marsha possibly killing her 2 children and then turning the gun on herself. This is why in the beginning of the video, I started it off with high-functioning depression, because on the outside looking in, they seem perfect. They seem like they have everything together. They seem happy, when in reality, they're hurting, they're depressed, they're battling some type of demon.
So what is high-functioning depression?
That an individual may be suffering mild, moderate, or even severe depression. But while they have it, somehow, some way, they have the wherewithal to kind of hide a lot of the symptoms that other people might not be able to hide.
Psychiatrist Dr. Harold Levine, Baycare's chief medical officer in behavioral health, says oftentimes those who struggle with this kind of depression are successful and extremely disciplined.
Maybe more driven than the average person, and were able to put a lot of the distractions of their own health even.
Marsha, on the outside, looked as though she had it all together. She may have seemed like the perfect mother, and she probably was, but we don't know what was going on within her mind, within her body. We don't know what she saw within herself every night before she went to bed. We don't know what was going on. All I have to say is, please just check up on your loved ones, even your strong friends, the ones that look strong. Check up on everyone, because you never know what someone is going through mentally. Professor Philip Resnick said, "Don't trust selfies. What people post on social media should not be construed as the true picture of their life." And unfortunately, this family was prime example of that. They seemed happy. Marsha seemed happy, but she was battling demons that she could no longer control.